Hey, how's it going guys? Ancient Rune here, back with another Borderlands 3 build video, and today I'll be going over my Corrosive and Radiation Zane build called Toxic Projection. This build started out using the Flesh Melter to boost corrosive locked guns, that eventually ended up just being using the Elemental Projector instead. Which means we can also add a few more elements to this build like Radiation. We can use a self-dot gun to apply a dot for Elemental Projector to make it super easy to use. Now, not all dots have a long duration, making it so not all dots can be used well, but corrosive dots have a 7-second duration and radiation dots last for 8 seconds. Using amazing mobbing guns, we could very easily use this without having to constantly swap back to a dot gun after every kill and have to kill every single enemy one at a time. And then for bossing, it's pretty easy to keep the dots up and going with immune phases, cycling, and just powerful guns in general. We also have a way of applying a cryo dot and not losing damage from it, but actually gaining, which ends up being a good side bonus. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The save file will be found in my Discord, which is linked down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, for the gear here, first the main gun and like the whole deal with this build is going to be the Breath of the Dying. Now, what's great about the Breath of the Dying is that it double dips damage on the orb. So it takes the killing blow damage and it multiplies it by 18. So let's say you deal 1,000,000 damage, it doesn't matter if the health is 1, 100, 500,000, 999,000, it will still deal 1,000,000 damage if the 1,000,000 damage is the killing blow. Does not matter the element as long as it's not an AC 50, because the AC 50 will steal the kill, but like Revolter, Terror, Cryo, URAD, Nexting Mags, all that will not steal the kill of the Breath of the Dying. It just means that element will go through the formula. So if a shock kill happens, then it will get like that shock damage reduction amount. But then it goes through the orbs, does the times 18, and then the rest of the damage formula, including assault rifle weapon type damage. And these are also splash on the orb. Now, what's cool about the Breath of the Dying on Zane is that it has a 0% dot chance if you look on this card here. That applies to the orbs as well, and these bonus elements we have, like the Revolter. Now the Cryo doesn't matter because Cryo doesn't have a dot in this game, but the Revolter could apply a dot. And as long as you don't have AC 50, it will not apply a dot to you. Or if you, I haven't really tested this, but I know if you go like Executor to force a crit on the Breath of the Dying with Arm and Flint, it will apply a dot to the enemy. So I assume it's possible to maybe apply a dot on you, but I haven't tested that. But that's not really a worry on this build. But yeah, Breath of the Dying is nuts, making it, it's just really strong, and it's got enough base damage and fire rate to work as single target as well, where some guns can just be worse than single target but better mobbing. Alright, then some other guns we have here is the Reflux. This is one of my other favorite guns, mainly because I don't really use it on many other builds on Zane. It just doesn't feel good to me, but you're going to want to use a ×7 here. Reflux is just really good for mobbing. It doesn't have any special double dipping stuff going on, but if you pair it with some Mesmer, it can work with single target. So we have stuff like Clone Throw a Grenade and Duct Tape Mod to increase chances of that. It's not like the full focus of the build of going Mesmer. I've tried to do stuff like that and I didn't like it. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but I just didn't really like it. And with these two, I really like going Terror Cryo, just because we already have Terror on our grenade for Terror V1 and fire rate. So Terror Cryo is just a really good bonus element, and we'll boost that with Cold Bore, applying a Cryo status effect, which we'll go over later. But so we get that boosted, so it's just really nice. Other ones are like the Unkept Herald. Now you can use this in Corrosive or Radiation. Radiation is really good for mobbing because if you crit with it, it'll apply a high rad dot, and it's just like hits a large area. So it's one of those technically not mobbing but ends up being mobbing weapon. And if you throw in like an Hustler, then getting that radiation dot will be a lot easier. So it just kind of depends on what you want with the Uncupped Herald, but you can use either antifreeze or Hustler. Some other guns we have, Gargoyle with the reload span can be pretty fun. I don't use it too much on here, but it works. Free Radical is purely here for a fight for your life weapon if you need it. I really like the redistributor on here. It's really fun, but since our main exit skill is clone, we swap to the barrier, which means a little worse survivability. Going down can suck on this build. Clone kind of helps carry with that, but it's not impossible to get back up. You just have to pay more attention and make sure you just don't go down if you do have like a fight for your life weapon like the free radical, but it's not like strong enough to where we focus only on getting barrier. Like we just swapped the build from barrier to clone because clone is still better survivability tool in here. Now if you just wanted to go full redistributor, you could make some swaps around from red tree into green tree to get barrier and then possibly deterrence fuel, and just make sure you don't get really expensive jacket, but I would not suggest it. And then smog is just like single target for redistributor. Redistributor does work with the mesmer as reflux does, but I didn't do too much with it there. We got the chaos here. Now difference with chaos and breath of the dying is that the killing blow element will be the explosion, so it's kind of harder to focus on with elemental projector there, but it still is good. It just can really hurt here. And then we have the another reflux here, but with digiclone ammo regen. Digiclone ammo regen can work here. Same with AC splash. I would just experiment. AC splash can probably hit peak with eraser guns, but I much more prefer Terror Cryo with other stuff. Shrieking Devil's really good with this, but Hustler. We have Butcher as like a single target for reflux. Recursion is extremely good with this. I have ×2 and ×1, just with a bunch of different rolls here, but with corrosive or radiation is just really, really good. Really good eraser weapon. And then we have the flacker here. I really just like shooting this. You could use like a red suit, but the thing is with this gun specifically is that it does not apply a dot for some reason. It has that dot chance, but it will not apply a dot. ASC 50 may change that, but I haven't used the flacker within ASC 50 in a very long time. So you still would have to like apply a regular dot to you. Then we have Major Gaunt here, just a really good eraser weapon for either bossing or mobbing. And then we have the Globetrotter, which is just a really good bossing weapon. And you could probably go some like cryo focus stuff and focus more on that cryo damage and use it for mobbing with like an absorb shield, like maybe a cryo old god. Hell, even a transformer would work. As long as you don't have those other bonus elements going on. And then Sandhawk can be really good as well, but I'd stick to ammo regen on here with digiclone, and then probably have it to semi-auto mode. And single target guns on here is still good purely as an option for the mobbing weapons if there's like a leftover enemy, which does happen. And then we're going to go over our status effect guns. This is going to be what we are using to apply a dot to us. The main ones being the Insider and the Sellout. Now the Sellout is really good because you can get it low level easily during your playthrough. Lowest level unanointed is level 26, and that will work just fine. But you can also, after completing the quest, go to Earl's Vendor and get as low level as possible while doing this by skipping as much content as you can, only killing what you have to, which does sometimes mean suffering through some mobbing or boss fights. But it's worth it in the end for finding some stuff. I'm working on a video about low level grinding, so once I make it, I'll try and remember to post it here, so you can keep an eye out for that. But it's really just of winning as much as you can, getting crit and hail, and going from there. But yeah, so you go to Earl's Vendor and you should be very low level. Me personally, I was able to get to level 21. Save quit until you get a Sellout with an anointment. That's good. You could even go for as low parts as possible. I think this is a max damage one. You just get that, and then you can reroll the anointment later when you have a radiant to do so. With the anointed one, I like to go Terror Ammo Regen since we're already going Terror, and that just allows us not reload as much, which isn't a terrible thing, but usually we just swap to the gun, shoot, swap right back, and that means we don't have to get out of that gameplay loop to reload as much. Even though we have the Terror Ammo Regen, again, we're barely having the gun on us, so it can not regen that much. And then we have the Insider. This is for anything that's not corrosive or fire. I like to have corrosive and radiation, but mainly you just need to get radiation ×6 at low level. Now I was able to get to the area for farming at like level 14, and then you basically just only kill one of them and do the respawn strat with Tom and Zane, or if you kill both of them, you'll have to complete the whole DLC and then come back. But level 14 to 20 is very easily can get an anointed one. You'd want to make it turn on the Terra event for this, and you'd have to get a radiation ×6 with some sort of Terra anointment, because then again you can just reroll later when you have a radium, and then you have that self-dotting gun. What makes these guns so good is that they don't have a charge time and they're splash, so you get these low levels so they barely hurt you, but still enough to break your shield, because we use that with Revolter. And then it will also has a high dot chance, so that no charge time means you don't have to spend like a second charging it to then apply a dot. Not that that can't work sometimes, because there are some guns where it's worth it. But mainly here we go with no charge time, high dot chance, where you can see the sellout has 72% with 3 projectiles, so high odds of it doing with 1 shot, and then 6 projectiles with 58% dot chance on the Insider. Now you can go ×12 Insider, but it just costs more ammo and not really worth it, so I just prefer ×6. And then there is one more gun, which is the Wester gun, which is less projectiles, harder to get anointed, kind of, not really, but you just have to probably do a separate character just to farm this with the other elements, just like the Insider. It just has a low dot chance, and on Zane that's not really worth it. Maybe on Amara it's better, but it only has 19% dot chance, which isn't that good. Alright, and then for the shield we have the Revolter. We want this as low level as possible. Getting an anointed one with Revolter, easy anointed, is going to be in the 30s. That's the lowest level I've been able to complete the story. Go to Mayhem 8 and then do the DLC to get a Revolter, or you can just use some Diamond Key stuff and do that. Triple health is what I like to use, but there's a lot of options. You can go fleet, you can go recharge rate, recharge delay. There's a good amount of options, but I like health just because it makes me a bit tankier, and I like that health buffer since we don't have any shields to cover us. Terra apply to get Terra on our guns and our grenade. Again, just health isn't a big part. Just getting the low level Revolter is the most important thing, but the health is nice. For other shields, mainly for like Hustler guns, we don't want Revolter because a lot of Hustler guns apply self damage to us, and that shock damage will kill us. So we want to make sure we have something else. An Old God for more elemental damage isn't bad. Infernal Wish is really nice for that extra projectile, and what I usually go. Red Suit can be nice, but not too good. Amp doesn't really matter here, but it is an option just for like radiation immunity for some radiation weapons. But I really like Infernal Wish with like cryo weapons, and that works really well. And then we have a Mesmer, just good for relieving aggro, especially on a build where we don't have that little bit of shield buffer. It can suck. So having Mesmer is really good, as well as just working really nice for like reflux or redistributor with the terror damage and fire rate. And we go this mainly for the Breath of the Dying, for double dipping in those orbs, but it also ends up being really nice, that extra fire rate, because it allows me to go less points in violence, which I usually would go more in, but allows me to spec it elsewhere. You could go It's Pissed, but I don't really go it. You could also go Terra Apply on a grenade and then like Terra Ammo regen, but then you lose out on fire rate and then probably have to adjust skills, and it's not really worth it and just gets complicated. And then for the class mod, our main thing is going to be the antifreeze for the main shooting guns. Antifreeze is really good because when we shoot ourselves, when having Cold War, we will apply a cryo status effect. Now that cryo status effect will normally slow us, but with antifreeze, it'll just give us normal speed. We can't slide or anything like that, but you don't really need to slide on this build, so it just works out, and it's just an amazing class mod. It is a pain to farm though. I would focus on getting weapon type damage and like 3 to 5 points in violent momentum, but you also have stuff like splash radius, splash damage, weapon type crit, regular crit, axe skill cooldown. I guess axe skill cooldown is probably the least important. Fire rate, reload speed, but really like the assault rifle damage, crit damage, and slash radius or slash damage is what I would focus on. Really, the weapon type is just really good since Zane doesn't have too much of that. Then we also have the Hustler. This is going to be for our eraser friendly guns. Now you will be slowed, but the thing about this is that Hustler with eraser doesn't care as much about violent momentum and that gun damage. The main thing is getting that double dipping damage. So we have like V1 here, elemental damage, weapon type, splash. All of that will be a lot better here. So minimum with Hustler is going to be splash radius, and then weapon type is really good, or like splash damage is going to be really good as well. I also like charge speed on some guns, but not needed. I like brain freeze, but the top rolls is the least important part, unlike the antifreeze. The antifreeze, the top part, skill rolls is important part, and the legendary effect is generally useless besides the slowed effect, and then Hustler, where the top rolls don't matter, and then the legendary effect is the important part. But we still can't use like an infiltrator or purple class mod with antifreeze, as then we don't have that slowed part. And then we have Elemental Projector Victory Rush. Main important part is the Elemental Projector. Now, since you have to like farm this somewhere, target farming Victory Rush is really nice, but you could also like farm the trial chest in the proving grounds, and that is also really good. So like a purple one would still do good, or just any legendary one, as long as it's not loaded dice or deathless, as that would affect your health, and you really don't want this, especially on this type of build. But Elemental Projector with weapon type damage is probably the minimum. When doing eraser stuff, you want the area of effect damage. That's more important than the SMG damage, as long as it's in the second or third slot of the artifact, it will get that bonus. Elemental Projector is just used here because it's so much damage, and we're mainly getting the boost for the Corrosive and Radiation dot, but sometimes we get boost from the Cryo damage and the Revolter boosting shock damage, but their shock is 3 seconds and Cryo is 5 seconds, so it's a lot harder to do. You still get a little bit boost from it, but it's not the main focus of keeping those status effects up. And then I have magazine size, which are really nice. Actual cooldown rate can be good, movement speed, elemental damage, not really, but it's not bad, but it's not the focus. And then for the skill tree, we're going to talk about blue tree. Of course, it's a gun build, like a standard gun build for quote-unquote standard, because it's a bit weird, but we're still doing the shooty gun stuff, so we are going all the way in blue tree. But we have violent momentum for the hundreds of gun damage. Now we can't slide, so we probably won't beat those like over 1,000 gun damage with 10 out of 5 violent momentum, but we still get a lot of gun damage to where other gun damage isn't worth it. Then we have Cold War for the swap speed, and then the Cryo bonus element. Then we have violent speed to give us more movement speed to boost violent momentum even more. Then we have Salvation, only need 1 point. Clone will proc it, you will proc it, get plenty of healing. Then we have Cool Hand here for reload speed. I take this and prioritize it over Violent Violence fire rate, just because I have other places to get fire rate, like damage, terror, and fire rate, where I choose to have that reload speed. I also just really like reload speed, but also like longer time reloading means less time you're shooting, which means less salvation, which means you're a little bit less tanky. Then we have Seeing Red. This is to activate our kill skills with mantas easily to get everything going. Then only 2 points at Violent Violence. You could also put some points into playing dirty. Honestly, Cool Hand, Violent Violence, and playing dirty are very flexible. You could mess with Cold War, but I wouldn't. At minimum, have 1 point for the Cryo bonus element to boost Terra Cryo. But having 1 point in here is really good for eraser stuff. If you want to do that, I don't and do fine, but it could just depend on your gear. And then we have 1 point in Good and Misfortune. All you need is 1 point for Clone. Now, if you're going barrier stuff, maybe you could do that, but I wouldn't. And then we have Death Falls Close for increasing kill skill bonus and duration, and Violent Momentum gets that increased kill skill bonus for some reason, even though it's not a kill skill, just making it extra worth it. Then in Red Tree, we have Clone to act as a aggro relief and just healing turret. So we have Premutinous for more mag size. Then we have Borrowed Time for action skill duration to have our action skill out longer. Then we have Fractal Frags here, so Clone can throw our grenades for us. And then we have a little bit of a dilemma with some skill point flexibility here, which some is just me being biased, and some is how effective it can be. You want at least 1 point in Duct Tape mod here for the splash immunity. Not the dot immunity, keep in mind, but the splash immunity. And then you can either put the rest into Duct Tape mod, this is to help get down the tree, or you can put the points in Donnybrook for you to get health regen and Clone to get health regen. I found it not that needed, but it still is helpful, and I like this just so I can shoot my Mesmer more myself, which is really nice. And then we have Quick Breather here. This is so we can swap with Clone, recharge our shield and Clone shield, and restore Clone's health. even though we're applying a status effect to us, recharging that shield just a little bit so Revolter can break again is really nice, but mainly here for the clone survivability. And then we have Old U here. This is so if we go down, we can get right back up with clone, no problem. We don't go, if you play smart, you don't go down too often, but if you mess up, then Old U is there to help you. And this is where it definitely beats barrier, is just being able to get right back up. Then we have Supersonic Man. This is to get more movement speed to boost violent momentum even more. Then we go nothing in Green Tree. Green Tree could have some good stuff like Rise to the Occasion, but it's not worth it over getting damage and utility. And then you'd probably be focusing on barrier, and that's not what this build wants to do, as clone is just so much better for survivability. Then we're going all the way down in Purple Tree. First we go Mana Focus. You can put 3 points on Renegade if you want. It's max health regen, so even though it's 1.5%, it's not terrible and can help you stay like above health gate sometimes and just get some extra health, but I don't prefer it over getting max mana focus for the accuracy and handling. And then we have the Headsman's Hand here. This is for increased crit damage. If you don't have it on your class mod, then this is going to be like the only other place you're getting it effectively. Then we have Commitment for the cooldown rate. Since we don't have topped off, since our shield is never full, this commitment is really good for the cooldown rate. Gun damage consistent, sometimes I like in some builds, but since we're going that huge violent momentum bonus, that gun damage is not going to matter much at all. Then we have Fugitive, so we can shoot and sprint, making the violent momentum boost even better and more consistent. I don't always shoot and sprint, but it's there for when I need to. Then we have Domino Effect. This is for increased fire rate and reload speed, and it says after an action skill crit, it doubles. The clone can crit, which means it'll activate this effect easily, which means the doubled effect is just active a lot of the time. And then we go Eraser here for the Eraser weapons, and just if you line up enemies, then you can use Eraser on your other guns. And then we have Sheer Will here. I like to go 2 points here to get down the tree instead of going 1 point here and then 1 extra point of Domino Effect for this build specifically, since we don't have topped off, to get that extra cooldown. Now this is going to be only affecting clone, at least for these stacks. The base cooldown of this 10% will affect Mantis, but it's only 10%, where this however 75% is going to be affecting clone, and just very helpful. And then we have Arm and Flint 1 to apply strong dots if we want to do that. And then also for radiation, red explosions, double dipping, and then triple dipping potential stuff, making it really good here. And then it also just gives V2 damage. Now, just like Eraser, Arm and Flint is double dipping, but it gets a status effect instead of a different projectile, making it just a really strong skill if you focus around it. And it's just really good with specifically recursion. If you can hit the crit spot wherever the recursion is, ×1 or ×2 will work really well, especially during true trial bosses. Then for the action skill, we have Mantis. Really the only thing that matters if we get Proliferation, as this will give us extra charges for just activating our action skill more and getting more stacks of borrowed time in Supersonic Man. I have Colder Shoulder here just because the Cryo version is less blinding. Freeze rate is nice, and we're not using this for damage. Technically, since we have some crit damage passives and Elemental Projector with Cryo, you could somewhat use this for damage, which would be fun, but I don't do it here. And then you could also go No Way Out. I'd rather not pull my enemy towards me if I'm using a splash gun, and not lose even more cooldown when I already don't have topped off. And then we have Digital in here as aggro drawing turret, proccing salvation, throwing grenades. First off, he goes Shot and Feud, but this really isn't too important. But it is nice because it will sometimes restore our shields, which will then just be broken again, which helps with Revolter uptime going. I just don't really like going which one's real, as it draws even more aggro, and clone isn't too tanky without movement hands, and especially when I'm not going Donnybrook, having Mizor helps a little bit, but clone will still draw some aggro, just not as much with which one's real, which is still nice. But the big thing here is getting Doppelbanger, as then we can blow up clone if we can't reposition him somewhere easily. And then a lot of builds that have breaking shields will turn off shield reboot and emergency response, but we want to make sure to keep these on, so when we kill an enemy, it'll start regenerating our shields even to 1 HP point, or 1 shield point, and then it'll go back down again. And it's just really easy to tell if you have a dot applied to you, because if you see your revolter recharging, then it means a dot is not applied to you. So that's just an easy way in gameplay to figure it out. I hope you guys enjoyed the build video. This build is super weird and inconvenient, but super fun to do if you want to put some extra effort with Zane. Being able to use Elemental Projector effectively on a gun build has been a desire of mine for a long time, and I finally figured out how to use it, as well as just using guns I wanted to use but haven't been able to push the power to where I like. It ends up being like a driver Amara build with Elemental Projector use and high gun damage, as well as using mobbing weapons to simulate ties that bind and indiscriminate. The main difference being Amara has longer lasting dots, and those dots make it easier to apply, as well as more gun options. Again, you can find the save file in my Discord, which is linked down below, as well as my other socials. If you haven't, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.